Many times, managers don't want to change the status quo. Many times, they're no-wave managers. Many times, they don't like their authority challenge. So I write about the different types of managers, micromanagers, all to be aware of that they can be resisted. Your best thing is to get support, not just you, but your people and maybe other people at equal levels to come at them, because then they either make a change or they look foolish. That's hard because usually sometimes they feel offended and they get hurt feelings and they get resentful and it could start a war. Or sometimes you just go around them. That's not recommended. I've done that several times where I've taken the order of the business and the executive vice president would come to me and say, "Who gave you authority to cut that price?" I said, "Well, you want me to send the order back?" And he would just stop and say, "No, never mind. Don't do it again." That happened many times.
Welcome to Step Into the Light, the podcast where stories of struggle become stories of strength and pain transforms into power. The show is proudly sponsored by Project Icon. I'm your host, Jack Lima, and I can't wait to share today's conversation with you. I'm your host, Jack Lima. Today, I have joining me Don from Beyond Leadership. How you doing, Don?
I'm excellent. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks for joining us. I know we were talking off air for a little bit, but you are based in Cleveland, and I was kind of giving you a little bit of a rise about the weather. It's about 75 degrees out here today in Arizona, so nothing to complain about there, but I know that you need some sunshine after that football debacle this year. So
Send some my way. We got snow and more snow on the way.
it'd be a white Christmas, maybe, right?
Could be.
Good. So Don, looking over your website, look at information. What inspired you to create Beyond Leadership?
Well, ever since I started in business like 48 years ago, when I was finishing my junior college degree, I got a job in a summer job in manufacturing, and it was an international company. And I really took off liking building things, watching things get built. So the next thing I knew is, as they asked me if I could read drawings, and I became an inspector, quality manager. And along the journey, I kept getting promotions, took over different departments, became plant operations, and then North American service. I spent 10 years in the factory running, just about doing everything, managing every aspect. And I always learned along the way that people were your greatest assets. If you can get them to actuate and get them to influence them with proper leadership and proper motivation, you can pretty much accomplish anything. I think one of my favorite quotes is John Maxwell's quote, "If you can get your people to see the invisible, they can accomplish the impossible." And it really is true, because in my journey in business along the way, they had what you call hotspots, which basically meant it was the worst problem area in the company. And they always sent me to the hotspots. And I was only in my early 20s, and I was dealing with all kinds of manufacturing crisis and quality issues and people issues. And it was always comes down to, if you can influence the people in a positive way and extract from them what they, their talents and assets, then, and get them to work together, you could accomplish anything. And so that was what happened to me. As I changed 12 different jobs. Most of them were always promotions, and went from the shop floor as a stock boy when I started, and ended up as a vice president of sales and operations in an international manufacturing company. I traveled the world, got to see things, manufacturing all over the world, Japan and Europe, and it was a phenomenal experience.
And so what made you want to kind of develop this program?
Well, what had happened is, along the way, I kept getting these success because it wasn't me, it was tapping into the people and tapping into their unique abilities. Everybody has strengths, everybody has value, and everybody has things they can improve on. And I know what areas I need to improve on. And sometimes I'll make sure I get somebody with me that has the strengths that I need to make myself even stronger and better. Along the way, we kept having successes, and they kept giving me challenges. We bought companies. I moved them from Michigan to Cleveland. Bought 2 companies in 2 years, and we assimilated them, and I set them up in the Cleveland factory.
Can you give me like an example of what you just shared with us?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you give me an example of what you just shared with us? A real life example?
Sure, sure. When I was a young supervisor and I had 3 different departments, and they threw another department on because the electricians were called the rabble rousers, and so the rabble rousers would always needle everybody in the factory, the things that go on. And what I had to do was sit with them and say, "What do you guys need?" And the problem was that they just didn't have everything they needed, didn't have the drawings, and didn't have the support. So the first thing I did was make sure they had everything they needed, and that satisfied them. People would like to do a good job if they have the proper equipment and tools. And when we bought another company at the same time, they gave me this company to integrate into our Cleveland, Ohio factory. And my guys, I had hired people, picked guys from in the plant. We had a lot of shortages and problems because we didn't have the proper tools that were supposed to be acquired. So I told my guys, I said, "Don, we're behind schedule because we don't have drills, vices, clamps." I said, "Okay, it's time to create some motion. Go out in the plant, take whatever you need. I don't care where it comes from, take it." And they did. And we had some creative sharing going on, and it upset one supervisor so much he went to the president and explained to him. He said, Corsaro's got a bunch of thieves in his department. And the president came over and said, "What is going on? I'm told that your guys are taking tools from everywhere." I go, "Absolutely, sir. I told them to do that because I asked the plant manager for um, the proper tools, and it's been weeks, and we are not getting them. So my guys are falling behind, and they don't want to be behind." And he said, "Oh." A few moments later, he came back. My manager came down all disheveled and said, "You'll have your tools tomorrow." Those are the kinds of things, working with your people, supporting your people, knowing when you have to sometimes go outside your sphere of influence and make things happen.
What's one leadership habit do you wish most people had? I know I used to run a department of about, I don't know, 300 people in a corporate world, a top 500 company. And one thing that I've learned being a leader is um, being authentic, right? There's too much red tape, too much political. It's who knows who, what favor. If you can be authentic, it may hurt, right? The truth may hurt a lot of times. But in reality, I think that if you're authentic and tell them the good, the bad, and ugly, versus trying to kind of be, I don't know, just kind of like a lot of people say that, hey, I want you to do better work, right? And then in a way, you may say it in a way where it's not as hard, but people respect the truth, they respect honesty. So I believe people need that leadership quality from themselves is to be able to be criticized without the feelings being hurt, right? I think today's day and age with social media, it's just too much mental weakness. You can't say the right thing or you can't say the wrong thing. You have to be in the middle. If you're in the middle, nothing gets done, as you know, right? So if you say it this way, you're this person. You say it this way, you're this person. You say it in the middle, then you're confused. Like I believe people have to go back to the instinct of being honest with people. And I hope people are not so in today's climate, not offended by what the truth is. Do you run into that a lot?
I do. In fact, in my book, I write about and call it authentic leadership, the
Mhm.
same word you use. And I talk about authentic leaders have to be professional and honest with their people. Never lie to your people because if they sense insincerity, you'll never be able to lead them. You have to be always professional, honest, and willing to learn. The people that are willing to learn. Like I work with people that were at the company 50 years, and I asked them, "Could you teach me things that other people won't learn because of your experience?" And they were glad to do that, and that catapulted me upward. But when you say authentic, authentic leaders are the ones that take people in a positive way and get them to take on new challenges and go out and shake the very foundations of the industries they serve. Look at Elon Musk. Is he shaking the foundations of industries served? Exactly. And if you can replicate, like a franchise replicates a business, you want to replicate those leaders. And if you can replicate those leaders and get them when they're young, it helps. Because what I found is as we've gotten older and everybody's set in their ways, they really don't want to change or learn. You always have to be open minded to learn and change. So authentic leadership is paramount, and you are correct.
Yeah, I learned that many years ago, right? You coach many leaders, right? What's the most eye-opening mistake even a seasoned leader has done?
What I have found is they do not have a vision, a goal. All they're doing is going out there and doing a job. And in my book, I talk about you have to, there's three pillars of leadership. First, you have to cast a vision. You got to know where are we going? And then you have to work your way back to make a plan to get there. You have to build the team, and then you have to create an environment for that team that is rewarding and productive, and everybody feels that they're part of to go after that vision. And when you can do that, then you'll take quantum leaps and major steps to get to the end goal. And sometimes you're going to have obstacles. This is not a panacea of everything goes right. It's usually many things go wrong. And when that happens, you have to step back and you have to look at it and you have to readjust, maybe redo your plan. But you always need to keep your people involved and communicate to them. Because if they're involved and they say, yeah, we understand what happened here, maybe we could do this, they will assist to get to the next level.
Yeah, but when you have somebody that's seasoned, executive or upper management, and you come with your ideas, are they I don't believe a lot of them are really open book about it. You're like, I got me to where I am today based on what I've done. Now you want to change my philosophy. And a lot of them don't want change. So how do you overcome that? You overcome that with the spear, the point of the spear, or do you come that with kindness and sugar and spice? How do you get through them?
This is an excellent question. And I write about it. I call the inside sales. Why is inside sales so hard? And I've had this happen many times. You could see what you need to do. You could put a presentation together. You can go to the manager or management and say, this is what we should do, why we should do it, how we should do it. And here's the evidence that shows it is a high rate of success if we do this. Many times, managers don't want to change the status quo. Many times, they're no wave managers. Many times, they don't like their authority challenge. So I write about the different types of managers, micromanagers, all to be aware of that they can be resistant. Now, sometimes you're going to be able to win them over. And usually your best thing is to get support, not just you, but your people and maybe other people at equal levels to come at them, because then they either make a change or they look foolish. That's hard because usually sometimes they feel offended and they get hurt feelings and they get resentful and it could start a war. Or sometimes you just go around them. That's not recommended. I've done that several times where I've taken the order of the business and the executive vice president would come to me and say, who gave you authority to cut that price? I said, well, you want me to send the order back? And he would just stop and say, no, never mind. Don't do it again. That happened many times.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But in reality, though, when you do make these adjustments, they see the light, right?
They can, some do, some don't, and it's a dynamic, like a tension dynamic. Some people will get on board. Your hope is to win more support than opposition. If you get that support, then things start moving forward. If there's too many opposers, usually the opposers are far and few between. But if they're at really high executive levels, I used to have a vice president that said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I said, well, your engineer just came to you with a design that'll take 30% of the cost out of your product. And I said, and it'll make it easier, faster, quicker. And he said, yeah, but what about the international design? I said, the only international design between Europe, Japan, and America is the conveyor belting, the thing that handles the material. Everything else is sheet metal and it's different per country and culture. He still didn't change. And the engineer lost lost a lot of faith. He just said, as long as they pay me, and he went and found another job.
Yeah. It's unfortunately when people just don't like to have the opinions of others because they feel like you guys will take the credit. I've been in the corporate world for 17 years, and sometimes my ideas I just keep it to myself because I don't think it's going to be received well. And even if it's received, it's just like, right, right, just
Overlooked,
yeah,
brushed off, or put to death slowly.
yeah. So, what was your personal turning point in your own leadership journey that reshaped how you guide others today?
I was very successful along the way, and I was writing about leadership, and I was compiling a book on leadership. And I had a chance meeting with one of the top CEOs in the entire world. The gentleman who took Continental, in fact, he gave me a copy of his book, Mr. Gordon Bethune. Mr. Bethune took over Continental when they were in about to enter their third bankruptcy. And he, within 18 months, he did a $1 billion turnaround. He took the company from worst to first. And I did not know when I first met him who he was. He said he was a retired airline executive. And so we became friends, and I shared my articles with him. And he called me up one day and says, you got to be teaching this in college. I said, Gordon, they don't teach this in college. He goes, I know. I have a degree from Harvard and a master's from Harvard, and they don't teach this. You need to teach it in college. We laughed. But he ended up, his turnaround of Continental with 40,000 people was one of the top 10 business turnarounds of all times. I mean, it is major. And I still keep in touch with him today, even though he's retired. But when he got on everybody on board, he created an incentive for them that he would pay them a separate check if they could get in the top three metrics, which was on time flight schedule, no luggage delivered where and when you got there, and no customer complaints. He said it took 2 months, and they were number one in every metric for the next 10 years till he retired. He said it was amazing. And Continental was the best airlines in the sky. They won all kinds of awards. He won awards, and it was everybody pulled the same way. It was an amazing thing. When I learned who he was, I was thinking, I've been dealing with this gentleman who's like the top of the game, and we deal with each other effortlessly. So I had him read my book, and he said, this is similar to what I did at Continental. I'll write the foreword to your book. So Mr. Bethune wrote the foreword to my book, and he's a good friend and a mentor to me in business. That changed my perspective. In other words, I wanted to take it and teach younger people. Gordon said, look at people that are coming out of high school and college. People that are already set in their ways are harder to change. But if you could get them some basic principles early on, then maybe they can start to use those principles and see the success factor. He did it with 40,000 people. I think it's something that's been proven.
Yeah. So, how long has your book been out?
Yeah, I released it in July, and the end of July, and it's just this year, and it's just starting to get some traction. I've done a few interviews, podcasts, and things. I'm going to do some speaking on it, hopefully in the near future, and it's got good reviews. It's a very simple, plain book called Leading People. I have to have the book, Leading People Beyond Expectations. Grow your company by growing your people. If you grow your people, you'll definitely grow your company. I give you stories within the book of things that happened to me and how I learned from other people and their situations and how they taught me different things. I interviewed the former chief of the sheriff's office in Cuyahoga County, largest law enforcement. He was a former Marine, Bronze Star winner. He was on the presidential detail. He was decorated by Congress, and he trained the SWAT team. And he said, training, training, training. We have a plan, a backup plan, and several other backup plans. But if all else goes, it's training. And I want to get everybody home safe. Those are the kind of real world lessons that we talk about. And the interview with him is really exceptional. He's a tremendous individual. He's retired now, but boy, he was a mover and a shaker in his day.
Bet. Sounds like he was a pretty important guy. What's your
Anytime.
favorite chapter of the book that you written?
I think it's where I met Gordon because I did not know he was this big time CEO, one of the top in the world, and all this went on. He was retired at the time, and we had a mutual connection of antique firearms that were made early on in the beginning of the 19th century, military weapons that went to the Navy. And they're hard to come by because they get rusted from salt air. So they're very expensive and they're very rare. So he contacted me because I was selling one of my relics, and we got to be friends. He was just a really nice guy to talk to and very good sense of humor. We became friends, and then we it branched out into me helping him achieve his goal. To this day, he's probably got the best 1911 collection in the world, including two single-digit guns, number 3 and 4. There was 40 guns made on the first day of production. He has 10 in his
Oh,
collection.
wow.
That's astonishing. So
Yeah.
you can understand, guys that are successful like that are successful in everything they do.
Yeah, I'm sure. What does leading with purpose mean to you?
Leading with purpose, the purpose that I get out of leadership, and a lot of people I talk to, is authentic leaders always want to make things better, because if you are a good leader and you work well with the people, they work together, they're happier. The company gets more successful, product gets out the door, you get better quality. They go home happier to their wives, they're able to make better money, they buy things for their family, and it's just that trickle down effect of goodness, because that purpose, to me, watching them succeed is just like a real high for me. I'll stay in the background. That's why I wear the coaching hat, because I'll coach them just like a coach on a sports team. I can't give them $1 million contracts, but I can say, this is your strength, and why don't we work together, and why don't you work with this individual and get things done?
Yeah, I mean, I think when people feel that you invested with them, right?
Yes.
I mean, not
Yes.
just, by the playbook, but they really feel that emotion, that connection, that authenticity. I think people resonate and they become more motivated, if you will.
It's true. Quick
Yeah.
story is, when I was working with Gordon, he told me the story about when he would used to go to different hubs. Continental had hubs all over the country. And one time he went to Atlanta and he was with the baggage claim people. And he'd go down and talk to the guys on the line. And here's the CEO throwing bags on the cart. And the guy, the guy went up to his buddy and goes, "Here you go. Here's $50. I never thought I'd see it, but you're right." He
Yeah.
comes down and he does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is leading by example.
That is a
They
leader.
felt comfortable with him.
Yeah. And they'll follow him to the edge of the cliff. For a leader who feels stuck or burned out, what's the first small step you would recommend to help them get back?
Stop, step back, assess where you're at. It's okay. You have a plan, you have a vision, all that. Is that still the same? Is where you're going the place you want to go? Sometimes you get frustrated and nothing's happening. If it's still the same vision, and maybe you need to readjust your plan. Sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's the people around you. I found that I was in a company at the time. I hit the zenith. I could not go any farther. And I realized that if I stayed there, I would be pigeonholed into a certain position. So I went and was recruited I made myself available, got recruited by another company. I was able to stretch my wings, took that company from not making money in 12 months. We went from like a silver mine to a gold mine. We're on our way to a diamond mine in year 3, and things were just rolling along. Along the way, I came up with an idea. I patented a product. I patented it myself because I had the idea before I went to the company, and I filed for provisional patent before I signed anything with the company. Went out and sold that patent myself to a Swiss company that has international operations, and it was for coolant filtration and machining. So that was a long and arduous path, but I did it. It took like several years, and I did it, and it was very rewarding because I was like in debt, like 60 grand in patent, 59,000 in patent costs, because it was I had patent in the US and Europe, and I was going to do Japan, but that was going to be another 15,000. So when you get into an international patent, it's expensive. And in Europe, you even if you're not awarded a patent, you're paying maintenance fees even if you don't own the patent. Where in the United States, once you own a patent, you only pay on it if you own it. So I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem fair. That's how it was. Fortunately, it went through.
So today, as what's today, December
10th?
10th? What excites you most moving forward with Beyond Leadership?
Well, what I'm doing now is since I retired from business, I've been doing some coaching of local companies. I released the book. I want to do some speaking engagements. I really like to get into um, the colleges and high schools and teach them the basic principles because my book is only 130 pages. I'm a very plain spoken, direct writer. There's not a lot of flowery language. Just write direct, roll up your sleeves. Here's what we're going to do. If I can get them to do that now, we have a crisis of leadership in our country. People have forgotten how to take charge and go forward. As you said, we're in a very politically correct climate where everybody can't hurt anybody. But if you're a positive, straight shooter, you can influence people. And leadership is influence, plain and simple. There's good influencers and there's bad influencers. And companies and countries rise and fall on good leadership. As we've seen in America and around the world, good leaders take their countries to new levels. Bad leaders cause their people a lot of pain.
Yeah, especially today's political climate, right? There's just so many, so much advice out there.
Yes, there's a lot of different opinions, and
If-
and I really have to be careful in wading through all that, and especially in business, it's you never know who you're dealing with. And I worked for a company who would mention, different programs. I said, "Don't ever mention a name. Just mention what the law is or the program is, because if you mention a name, 50% could be on the other side." And he said, "Oh, you're right."
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, at today's age, we have to be conscious and
Yes.
more neutral. Just give us, we more than value our opinion, but you kind of have to be mindful that, with today's data and social media, and so many cameras on us, it's hard to be what we did back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s before social media, where
Where
you
I
know
grew up, yes.
your opinion mattered because nobody could hear it other than going to a storefront or a physical building to hear you. Now they just can go on social media and hear anyone from the world, and everybody has a different perspective, different opinion, different culture, different heritage, and your heritage and your and their heritage may not climb or I would say integrate with each other. Then that's when people get offended. But you would never offend that person 20 years ago because you couldn't be in touch with that person because they live in Tokyo and you live in the US and you have different mindset. So it's funny how social media is helping people grow and reaching out there, Don, but I think it's also taking a step back to people interacting with each other, right? You look at today's kids, and I'm talking about kids, I'm 53, and I look at kids at my son age at 20 and 25 years old, they have no social skills. They don't because everything
I
they do is
understand.
online. Everything's online. How can you be a leader if you're hiding behind a camera? Right? And there is like everybody has a name online and everybody can be a troll, but that person would not speak to you that way or talk to you in that manner or even listen to you if they weren't online. And I find that really challenging today when myself included, including you, that when we go and talk about a keynote, um, these people look at you like they don't know how to interact with you. They don't know how to ask questions. I'm like, because they're behind by a screen. So that's definitely a challenge too. But I'm glad that you decided to write a book about beyond leadership because it is not just about the person in charge. It's how do you inspire others, right?
That's
And
really key.
it
How do
is.
you inspire others to get things done? And that really is what leading people beyond expectations is all about. If you can just take some simple principles from the book, and I write it so you could carry this as a manual in the shop, in the factory, in your business, and it's all broken down by chapter. You can reference it and say, oh, okay, casting the vision. Okay, creating motion. Okay, I even teach them how to think like an inventor. I created patents. I hold several patents and how to just go about it. Because somebody in that organization has an idea. And if you capitalize on it, you can really be beneficial. But many companies don't have a system to even evaluate an idea. I found that when I went out to sell my patent. I went out several times, it had some people interested, and then nobody was interested. And then the people that passed on it 2 years before came back to me and said, we're interested. And what had happened, they had such a problem I told them they were going to have that they thought they came up with a fix. And when they sent it to the guy in America, he goes, there's a gentleman in Cleveland, Ohio named Don Corsaro that owns the patent on what this idea is in US and Europe. You come out with that, you're in trouble. And they said, get him on the phone. And they ended up paying me a whole lot of money over a couple years to take that. And the funny thing was, it could have been a lot different if a few years before they had listened to me and I was even willing to come on board and implement it for them. But that would have been way too much for them to handle. So I
Yeah,
took the money and I left.
good. Sometimes people learn from their mistakes, right? As you say.
You would
All right.
think that,
I
but
didn't think so.
I've seen the same mistake time and time and time again. And that's one of the things that Gordon told me and taught me. He said when he retired, a lot of people sought him out for advice and he would give them good advice. He'd put together something and he'd give it to them and says, if you want me to help you, I'll be more than happy to spend a little time with the people. And, oh, no, no, no. And he said, you know what they did with that advice? I said, no, I don't. He goes, nothing. He said, but I cashed a check because I gave them what I contracted for. And if they would have asked for help, I would have given it to them. But a lot of them did nothing. Some of them did. But what do you go and seek out a gentleman who's one of the top, you get his advice, you pay him for it, and you don't use it? It's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's more for optical illusions for they're looking for outside vision and please the upper people and say, oh, we got this gentleman here to give us some, feedback on great,
Correct.
but they don't want to apply it because either it costs them too much money, it's going to stir the pot, or they just like the way things are, but they have to show some type of growth and just not use that. It's been all over corporate America for 17 years. I've been a part of that. It's like an illusion, It's just
I've seen it. In my book, I write about those that are uh, I thank those that have taught me how never be controlling and authoritarian and micromanaging, because those are the things that really hurt relationships and hurt businesses. I thank the people that along the way have given me a leg up or a hand up to learn and to be more prosperous and to be a better leader than a manager. Manager is like a status quo term in my mind. I want people to lead, even if it's just a little bit in an area. I like to teach them to lead in some area of their life.
great. Well, running out of time. So do you want to do a quick plug for your book, Don?
Sure. Thank you very much, Jack. Well, I'm hoping that I've sparked your interest a little bit here in this podcast. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Jack. I've really enjoyed it. And the book is called Leading People Beyond Expectations. Grow your company by growing your people. If you grow your people and get them to become the best that they can be, your company will take off. The only problem is you just got to let it happen. You got to not hold it back, and you get the right people, the right place, that will happen. So I encourage you all to go out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it. It's coming out in the audiobook in another week or so. It's an ebook, and I hope that it sheds some light. I know if you just do one thing in there, it'll give you the catalyst to do other things.
Great. Sounds great. Well said. Don, thank you for joining the show and best of luck with your book.
I
And
appreciate it, Jack.
you're
You
welcome.
have a great day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch at some time.
We will. Absolutely. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you so much. Take care
You're
now.
welcome.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.